are dying. We were suddenly thrown into a whole new world of experimental drugs, NIH, CDC, FDA, a massive healthcare bureaucracy, life care systems, home care, life support systems, and a government that genuinely, to us, did not seem to care if we lived or died. At first, this dark epidemic redirected our focus to fighting this plague, and we began to build our own institutions to take care of those who were sick and those who were dying. We pioneered alone such organizations as the Gay Men's Health Crisis and AIDS Project Los Angeles, and as a result, our political work had to take a back seat. We learned, though, as a community that we could not count on non-gay support to save our lives. We learned that we, ourselves, had to take care of those in desperate need, while at the same time protecting ourselves from blatant discrimination. But the empowerment we received from fighting for our lives soon translated into political action at a number of different levels. We realized that we indeed had the ability to control our own lives, to protect ourselves, to raise money, to fight back, and to defend our own. The closet door of thousands of individuals was flung open with each new positive HIV test. With AIDS, you see, all of us in the gay community had become equal. It was then that we began to run our own people for office. We started carefully selecting those who we would support depending on their positions on AIDS and issues of concern to lesbians and gays. Still, we were held at arm's length by most in both parties. Progress indeed had been made, but mostly by individual breakthroughs or carefully worded compromises in party platforms. For example, in 1988, 4 of us approached the caucus campaign about raising them over $1 million to defeat George Bush. Quite honestly, we weren't sure we could do it. But we felt the stakes were so high that we had to at least make the attempt. We were turned down by the campaign because we were viewed as too politically risky for that close of an association. So we still had a long way to go, but in this process of self-realization, thousands of gays and lesbians were learning that together, as a movement, we could indeed work the political process. Accomplishment and events that normally would transpire over decades for a community were suddenly condensed into a 4-year period, and the history of this community has been changed forever. A realization grew among us that unless President Bush was defeated, it would indeed for us be a death sentence to thousands of our brothers and sisters with AIDS. This community was ready long before President Clinton's campaign to do everything in its power to end what we regarded as a 12-year nightmare. We knew that our money and our votes might make a difference in this election, and we proceeded to prepare to deliver both. The emergence of President Clinton as our champion in the election is a well-known story. Everyone here knows of the early meetings, the fundraising, the tens of thousands of volunteers, his outreach to this community, and the results. But the important thing is not the money raised or the votes delivered, because to focus only on that aspect robs us of a very important time in our history. You see, President Clinton was the first nominee of any party to tell us that we were important to our country. That not only were our talents and skills needed, but they were wanted by this nation. I personally, as long as I live, will never forget him standing in front of my brothers and sisters in Los Angeles and saying to them, "I have a vision, and you are part of it." And from that victory and from our decade struggle with AIDS, a new force has been born. From AIDS, we discovered inside ourselves a determination and courage that none of us even knew we were capable of obtaining. From President Clinton, his vision and his inclusion of us and his coalition empowered us to once again dream of what we as individuals and as a community have to offer our fellow Americans. For the first time in our lives, we felt dignity. We felt what it was like to be free, and we felt what it was like to be part of a greater good, and we felt at long last there was hope. The President does indeed continue to make history by his actions on this issue. His meeting last week with organizational leaders of the lesbian and gay community was truly unprecedented and historical. His funding of AIDS programs are most welcomed. He continues to be an important and vital part of our struggle. But here we are once again engaged in a great debate similar to many others in this nation's history. A civil rights debate which affects millions of Americans. A civil rights movement for equal protection for gays and lesbians under the Constitution of the United States. What does the future hold for this movement and this nation? This much I can tell you. We will not go back. We will not go back. William Butler Yeats said, quote, "Too much suffering makes a stone of the heart." And in our suffering and in our unbelievable losses to AIDS, we have found the determination to be free. We will not pass our pain on to another generation. We will not compromise our basic rights as human beings. We will not ever negotiate our freedom away in the back rooms of Congress. There is no such thing as partial freedom. In our faith in pursuing justice through this system, please do not mistake our desire for an orderly process as either passivity or a lack of passion. This community is willing to do whatever it has to do to be free. If it's needed, we will fill the jails. We will give our last cent of our last dollar. We will live without our own individual freedom to free the next generation of children. You see, for many of us, we have nothing left to lose. And so, my friends, the next few years will be challenging years. They will be exciting years. And for all of us, it will be an extremely interesting journey. Thank you very much.
It's been a long time since we'd had an applause like that here at the club. First question. Columnist Mark Shields in the Post this morning suggested that the success of the demonstration on Sunday will depend on what, quote, face, unquote, the participants put on. He referred to, quote, exhibitionists, unquote, and the fear that they might alienate potential mainstream society support. Comment.
Oh, I'm tempted to say so many things. But I'll be good. You know, we're a very diverse community, like all communities. I remember in the 60s when the first African American wore a dashiki to the White House. It was a scandal. You know, I think it's important as a group determines and seeks its freedom that we not attempt to become cookie-cutter images of whether our families or our community think we should be in order to have our freedom. Part of the delight about this society is its creativity, is its diversity, our differences, the random search for ideas and newness. And I'm not willing to tell another individual that I'm going to be intolerant to them in order that I myself can be free. I think part of the concept of freedom is for everybody, and is to celebrate the differences that this country has and to make them our strength.
Put another way,